What's up, everyone? Howler here, coach of your Delta Gliders. Today I'm bringing you the draft analysis for Season 5 of the NCP, our first season competing in the league. I've been keeping my eye on the league ever since it transitioned to Sword and Shield. I want to say Season 3 was the first season that they played on Sword and Shield. I've been watching it since then. It's been a pretty competitive league, and this season they've even stepped it up a notch. The roster of coaches this season is just crazy competitive. It's going to be a huge challenge to continue our streak of making playoffs in every draft league I've ever played in. That's what I pride myself on. If you're new to this channel, I've always made playoffs in every single league, and I've been searching for that one that's really gonna push me to actually just get into playoffs rather than actually coast my way through regular season, get into playoffs, and then try to perform well in playoffs, which doesn't always happen. But anyways, I'm not here to waste your time. I got the 7th pick in the draft, which I don't often get bad draft positions. I would consider anywhere between 6 to 11, like that range in a 16 coach draft, to not be so good. And usually I'm pretty fortunate in getting positions near the wheels, like either near the front or the back. Like for APA Academy, which I uploaded a couple days ago, I was the 14th pick, so like very close to the wheel, very close to the back wheel of 16. For this past season of BBR, I was number 3. For BBL, I was number 2. So like I got very lucky with those positions. Not so much here. I am not very comfortable with drafting in the middle of the draft. So basically every time it came up to my turn, I didn't really know what I was going to pick until it was my turn. So I didn't really have much of a plan for this one. Real quick though, before we get into my team, actually you should go check out all of the other coaches. Their YouTube channel link should be in the description. And I guess a little bit more about me if you're new to the channel. I'm going on 23-year-old guy from Vancouver in Canada. Team name called the Delta Gliders. Pronounce it as Gliders. It's named after the boys baseball team that I coach, called the Delta Tigers. So yeah, I guess that's all you really need to know about me, isn't it? Right? So, okay, we got 120 points to spend on 11 Pokemon. And my first round pick was Tapu Lele. Now, a lot of people, at least in the draft stream, which I have watched a little bit of, seems to think that round 1 was maybe a bit early for Tapu Lele, and I do not care. Tapu Lele is something that I've been looking to draft for quite a while. I had the 14th pick in the NCL draft, NCL Season 7, which was a NatDex Showdown League that I started uploading and never was able to finish it. I ended up drafting Ash Greninja with the 14th pick, but I was thinking about getting Tapu Lele and Libero Cinderace with my first 2 picks of the back wheel there. That was a tier draft, so they would have both counted as tier 1s, and because it was NatDex, Libero Cinderace was allowed, and I thought that those 2 together would have been crazy. Cinderace even has Zen Headbutt coverage, which it could turn into stab under psychic terrain and just hit ridiculously hard, so even stuff like Toxapex couldn't check Cinderace, for example. But I ended up going against it because, just in case somebody else in the back wheel like took the other one, then I didn't really think it would be worth. And also, I'd be spending my points on 2 tier 1s right out of the gate, and I thought that I didn't want to blow all of my points. So I got Ash Greninja instead, and I got a shit ton of kills with it, so I'm happy about how that season went. But this is the season that we finally draft Tapu Lele. I was thinking, honestly, it was one of my backup picks for this past season of BBR too. Like, if Dragapult went, it was like my top 3 picks I remember for that season being Dragapult, Celesteela, Tapu Lele. And then of course Celesteela went 17th, and I think I went pretty late in this draft too, which is kind of weird. But yes, Tapu Lele isn't nearly as good as it was in Generation 7, only because the power boost that it receives from its own Psychic Terrain isn't as big, but I still think this Pokemon is extremely scary to switch into. It's really only Steel type, so if you support it with a bunch of shit that breaks Steel types, like Cinderace for example, then this thing is super scary. It's super scary to prep for. I remember I had to face it in week 12 of BBR, and just it's so easily able to run Choice Scarf, and being able to hit super hard with Psychic. Like Dark types aren't a reliable switch into it because it has Stab Moonblast on top of it. It's got some new tools to work with too, like I know it gets Iron Defense now, I know it gets Draining Kiss now, so you could bring it as a more defensive option with like Iron Defense, Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, the sort of Tapu Fini typical set. Doesn't I mean, that's an option. It's not something I would probably do very often because I just want to click super powerful attacks with it most of the time. But yeah, I'm excited to finally use this Pokemon. I always make fun of myself of how often I say that at the end of my Mon segments because I can't think of a better way to close it out at the end. But yeah, so I've kind of already given away my next pick. That's going to be Cinderace. So Lele was 16 points, Cinderace was 14 points. The highest tier value was 18 points. So I didn't draft anything above 16 points. Yeah, so I was really able to conserve my points pretty well in the draft, and I was able to pick up a lot of mid-tier options. So my team isn't very top-heavy, which it definitely was in BBR, and I was not happy about that. I don't like super top-heavy teams. I don't want to be forced into I don't want to be stuck into bringing the same 7 Pokemon every week, which was the case a lot of the time in BBR. I want to be able to bring all of my Pokemon, feel good that I can use them in 2 or 3 games each, which I did a good job of BBR Season 2, I think, but BBR Season 3, it just wasn't feasible. It just wasn't realistic. But with this team that I have here, I can build in so many different ways, and I'm looking forward to that. So, we've got Cinderace here. Cinderace, just good fire type to break down the steals. Pyro Ball is a little sketchy though. That's really my number one concern with it. I drafted it in IBL Season 8 before I dropped, and I brought it to the Week 1 game, and the first time that I clicked Pyro Ball, I missed. So I'm hoping that all of the Pyro Ball bad luck is past me at this point, and Cinderace will be a little more accurate with his Pyro Balls, because if he can hit them, Pyro Ball's another very, very, very strong attack. Giving us a pivot into Tapu Lele as well is super nice. We've got Court Change support to control the hazard game, and it does have Sucker Punch priority. It's one of the few things on our team that actually, I think it might be the only Mon on our team with priority, because I was very when you have Psychic Terrain, your own priority isn't necessarily going to be as good, but that's why we have a ton of speed control on our team. So priority may not be the best option to beat certain things down, but at least we have a ton of speed control. So yeah, Cinderace, it's really not that frail either, which I like about it. Like you can build it to take hits, especially if you're not running a ton of speed investment on it any given week. But I really like Lele and Cinderace's speed tiers together. Cinderace at 119 and Tapu Lele at 95, and right in between that is going to be Keldeo at 108, which is our third round pick. And Keldeo is something that I've not drafted before. I've got a good mix of things that I have drafted before and things that I haven't. I'd say it's probably about 50-50, maybe like, let's see here. I would count Cinderace as something I've drafted before. Tapu Lele is kind of a tough one because in a lot of Gen 7 leagues it wasn't allowed, and then it only recently became available in Sword and Shield. So I'd say I've drafted like maybe I've drafted 4 Mons on the team before, which is a lot more than I can say for APA Academy. And the goal in APA Academy was to use new stuff, but obviously NCP is a little bit more competitive, so I want to make sure I can draft a team that I feel I'm comfortable using. And with my first 3 picks, Lele, Cinderace, Keldeo, I've achieved perfect speed tiers. I have 2/3 of a Fire Water Grass core, and I have 2/3 of a Psychic Dark Fighting core. So I think these 3 picks together are really, really, really solid. Keldeo provides me even more momentum with Flip Turn. Its move pool may be a little bit shallow, which is usually my concern with taking Keldeo, is that in like certain matchups, its dual stabs can be really scary, but I feel that there are quite a bit of reliable like switch-ins to it, like Water Fairy Mons like Primarina, Azumarill, Water Ghosts like Jellicent. There are just certain things that will wall Keldeo, like Grass Ghosts like Decidueye even. At least we get Air Slash for grass types now, so that's cool. But I think like base 129 special attack, like it's still gonna hit pretty hard, especially if you slap the Specs or Life Orb on there or something. And I guess certain bulky waters, I can't always beat Keldeo if it's sub Calm Mind or something like that. So yeah, so I'm really happy, really happy with these first 3 picks. I feel like these first 3 are going to be coming a lot, and then from there I can support those, I can build around those in so many different ways. So I've got a really potent offensive core to start off. I need to start looking at some more bulk for the next rounds. So my 4th pick was Umbreon for 10 points, something that I haven't drafted before, and this completes my Psychic Fighting Dark core. And it gives me Wish Pass into things that, like an offensive mons that aren't super frail, so they can receive wishes, and Umbreon doesn't have to run Wish for its recovery. It can also run Moonlight if it wants, so it doesn't have to take up 2 move slots for Wish and Protect, and if it doesn't want to. So yeah, like this thing can sit in front of a ton of stuff. Yes, it can be a little passive, but I think this is a good time. To try this one. Like I said, I didn't really know what I wanted every single time it came to my turn. So it's kind of like I got those first 3, and okay, now I just need to grab something that's bulky. I see Umbreon sitting there for 10 points. I think that's a decent pick. Let's try it out. There really isn't a ton of logic behind all of my picks, but yeah. So this is where we get into the territory of Mons that I drafted and then proceeded to drop immediately after the draft. We had like like a 36-hour, something like that window where we could make transactions that do count against our season total, but those transactions would be active for our week 1 games. So the first 4 mons that I drafted, they stay on the team. The next 7, I dropped 5 of them, and this is something that I don't think that they covered in the draft stream, is how many transactions I made. So this 5th round, I originally drafted Steelix. You see Dracozolt on the slide, and the way that they did the slides here, I don't really understand. I'm not a huge fan of the way they did them. I would have preferred that they, like the way that I put the transactions in the chat, like I didn't swap Steelix for Dracozolt. Like that's not a direct swap, right? None of the swaps were direct swaps per se, but I wanted to show them as the changes I made in typing more so. But it doesn't matter. It's all the same team in the end. It's just kind of a weird way of me having to explain the order of picks and whatnot. But yeah, so originally in this slot I drafted Steelix. It gave me, I thought at 8 points it was decent. It gave me my ground and steel type. But the whole reason for me wanting to start to make transactions, like I saw that there was, I thought that maybe I could upgrade my ground type to something that has a little more reliable recovery. So I have quite a bit of mons. I have 5 mons on this team with reliable recovery now that I made the transactions that I did. I think before I had only 2, I think. Yeah, before I only had 2, now I have 4. Or no, before I had 3, and now I have 4. Yeah. Anyways, if you count strength sap as reliable recovery, that is. But so I made a transaction for Dracozolt. It was 1 point less than the dragon that I had originally drafted in the 8th round. But Dracozolt is here. It's also a decent flying resist. It has pretty solid natural bulk, I believe at 90, 180 defenses. And of course, Bolt Beak is going to hit things extremely hard if it's going first. So like choice scarf sets are really good. Hustle a little bit sketchy again, like about as similar, like even more sketchy than Pyroball Cinderace, because Hustle's like makes it so all of your moves are 80% accurate, and then Pyroball being 90% accurate. I don't really like to rely on hitting inaccurate moves. Like that's really the main reason why I would always avoid drafting Tornadus T, for example, because I am like on edge about needing to hit hurricanes in certain situations. But when you consider my next pick was Hippowdon, Hippowdon again was something that I didn't draft. I actually had drafted Rotom-Mow in this slot, so Dracozolt takes the electric type away from Rotom-Mow. We're gonna have to downgrade our Rotom-Mow to a different grass type later, which you'll see in the last round. But we upgraded our ground type significantly. So Hippowdon was worth 14 points, so that's a 6 point upgrade. So I needed to make a couple of downgrades, and Rotom-Mow unfortunately was one of them. Even though I thought it fit decently on the team, it would have been a second electric on top of Dracozolt, but honestly I don't think that would have been a huge problem, having 2 electric types, because I think Rotom-Mow plays more like a grass type with Levitate and Stab Volt Switch, if that makes any sense. But Hippowdon is something I'm comfortable using. I won a championship with it in IBL Season 6. It gives us a sand option with Sandrush Dracozolt, and I really do think a lot of the time that Sandrush Dracozolt is the superior ability for it, because it's going to be all of its moves are going to be 100% accurate. Like Bolt Beak hits super hard with since it's going first, it should be going first with the Sand Rush boost, and then you can run like Life Orb on top of that instead of maybe having to run Choice Scarf. So if your ground types are dealt with, then like I have Keldeo for ground types. Ground types, I'd honestly say are not bad against my team. I wish they were. I wish I could have. I mean, like, this is a transaction, right? So I didn't plan to take Dracozolt right off the bat. So if I had, then maybe I could have drafted better around dealing with ground types. But I'm still pretty happy to have this combination. And I don't have to bring Hippowdon with Sand. I can just bring it with Sand Force and have it be a Pokemon to support my top 3 picks and just fit and just be a pivot with Stealth Rocks. Hippowdon is actually the only Stealth Rocker on this team. Originally I had 3 Stealth Rockers, but 2 of them were both really passive low tier mons. So I now have Hippowdon's my only rocker. It is what it is. It's kind of similar to me having Cobalion as essentially my only rocker in BBR, because my other one was Amistar, and I only brought Amistar to 1 game. So if I wanted rocks, it was like Cobalion's got to come with rocks. But anyways, yeah, like hazards. I wish I had more hazards, but sorry. I need the TV to keep me well lit enough for this video. So anyways, that's our Jesus, what the? Stop it. Okay. Sorry. And I apologize for the webcam glitches as well. I don't know why the webcam does that, but I should probably figure that out at some point. Anyways, our next pick was something that we did hold on to, and that's Crowbat. Crowbat gives us an even higher speed tier than Cinderace. My main concern with drafting this was that it isn't a grounded poison, but I still love me some Crowbat. Like, even if certain things are wanting to set up Toxic Spikes, Crowbat can come in and defog. This is our first defogger. We originally had Rotom last pick, so it would have been our second defogger. Then we've got Court Chain Cinderace as well, and we have 2 other defoggers on the team. So we have 3 defoggers and Court Chain Cinderace. So I think hazard removal is pretty decent. Hazard setting maybe could be a little bit better if I had 1 additional Stealth Rocker, but it's not terrible overall. So we have extremely good speed tiers on this team. At base 130, 119, 108, 95. Those are perfect speed tiers. I love them. They're like, I couldn't plan them out any better, really. And then on top of that, we've got Sand Rush Dracozolt and 1 other Sand Rush mon in the back. So yeah, Crowbat, good fairy resist if I don't want to be switching. Right now my only fairy resist is Cinderace. If I don't want to be switching a Cinderace into certain attacks, Crowbat can come in, have reliable recovery, do some taunt, super fangs, stall breaking shenanigans, and also in certain matchups it can hit extremely hard with choice banded Brave Birds. I honestly think that Banded Bat is a very underutilized set, especially with considering how fast it is. It doesn't always have to run Jolly, it can run Adamant. If you remember how powerful Talonflame was in Generation 6, clicking Choice Banded Priority Brave Birds, like, Crowbat's attack stat is better than Talonflame's. It's going to hit harder, even harder than Talonflame. It may not get priority on those attacks, but still, like, it's really threatening. So, like, and it gets dual wing beat now. I don't really care about that. Dual wing beats, in my opinion, not a very good move. It's not even 100% accurate. It's the same accuracy as Pyro Ball, which I've already said is sketchy, so I wouldn't be. And then, like, even dual wing beat, you're going to be taking double Rocky Helmet damage if something switches in on that. I don't think that's a very good move. I would much rather just use Brave Bird to, like, Banded Brave Birds to 2-hit KO whatever your Rocky Helmet switch in is, and then, yes, I take a lot of recoil in the process, but I get rid of one of your Pokemons. So yeah, our next pick showing up on the slide here is going to be Drift Blim. This is where I had drafted my dragon, Haxorus, and I drafted a higher value ghost type later on in the draft, and I downgraded to Drift Blim, which I thought made a ton of sense given I already have Psychic Terrain support. And I had Drift Blim in on my IBL Season 7 team that I won the championship with, and it was my playoffs MVP. It came to all 3 playoff games. The first game it didn't really do as much, but the semifinals and finals it put in a bunch of work for me. So I am comfortable using it, and this time I actually have proper terrain support for it. Basically, the only terrain support I had for it on the IBL team was setting either electric terrain or grassy terrain with my G-Max Duraludon's max moves. But now that I have Psychic Terrain, which is going to boost Drift Blim's special defense, which I think is better for it because it's going to get its Unburden boost, the +1 in Spadef, and then it takes on physical attackers a lot better because of its Will-O-Wisp and Strength Zap utility options. So yeah, I think Drift Blim is probably the best ghost type for this team. Again, it's another defogger, and more speed control. We've got speed control with Unburdened Drift Blim, speed control with Sandrush Dracozolt, and Sandrush Stoutland. That's my next pick. Originally I had drafted Shuckle in this position as, like, I'm just gonna take a 2-point Shuckle for sticky webs and stealth rocks. That really was the only thought process behind it. But when you consider how naturally fast my team is and how much speed control I have, I didn't really think that I needed sticky webs that much. So I think getting rid of Shuckle was a smart trade-off. And it gives me a normal type that I didn't have on the original draft, but I had wanted. Like, I was looking to take normal types. I was thinking about taking one at several points throughout the draft, but then normal types that I had my eye on kept getting taken, so it got pushed down on the priority list, and then I never ended up getting one. But now that I do have a normal type now, which is good to have, like, a ghost immunity whenever I'm not bringing Umbreon. It's a ghost immunity, ghost switch in for Tapu Lele, because I would want to cover Lele's ghost weakness if possible. And Umbreon being as passive as it is can be taken advantage of in certain matchups, so I don't want to be relying on that to be my ghost switch in all the time. Stoutland can also switch in on ghosts, and it also has the potential to run Scrappy, so that it can hit those ghosts with its stab normal type moves. Even if those ghosts want to burn it, it can run Facade. It can still hit things super hard with Facade. And I think I showed I had this in BBR Season 2, and actually I used it. I was okay using it. Like, I brought it to like 2 games, maybe 3 if you can. I don't remember. It was either 2 or 3 games, one of those two. And you can bring it as a bulky Intimidate mon as well. And, like, just having Intimidate support, like, if you get an Intimidate attack drop on something and then you can go into something else that can facilitate setup or something like that, just Intimidate support is nice to have. Yeah, so I'm very happy to have Stoutland on this team over Shuckle in the end. So our last 2 picks, so I had like 19 points left over at this point for my last 2 picks. So I saw Klefki sitting there, and at the time I already had a steel type, being a Steelix, but generally when you take Klefki, I think it's a good idea to have a second steel type on the team. Just because, like, Klefki isn't, like, it's like more, it's a little bit more of a passive mon. I wouldn't say it's passive to the degree of Umbreon, but it doesn't take all of the hits that you want it. Like, it doesn't resist opposing steel types, for example, because of its secondary fairy typing. So I guess actually what I should say is, I think Klefki fit well on the original team. It still fits okay on the current team. And it's our secondary hazard user as well. I wouldn't really even say secondary, because we can set multiple layers of spikes. And spikes and stealth rocks, if they both get up together, those really add up. Those two hazards together stack like extremely well. Like you get 25% off, like almost 25%. It's more like 24%, but still, on things that are grounded and that aren't wearing boots, so they can be really helpful. It's another defogger for the team. The only thing to watch out for with this is, because I have Psychic Terrain, I can't use Prankster Defog in Psychic Terrain. I can't use Prankster Thunder Wave in Psychic Terrain, and of course, neither one of those things will work against Dark types, but we are a Fairy type, so we should be able to take on Dark types anyways. Yeah, so I think this is a good support one for the team. Even though it was 12 points was a little bit pricey, I could afford it. So yeah, I'm happy to have it on the team. And the last mon is Vileplume. So originally I had drafted Galarian Corsola. So if you look at the mons that we got rid of, like Klefki, kind of taunt bait, Umbreon, taunt bait, so we still have those. And then Shuckle and Galarian Corsola, definitely taunt bait. So that was one of my other concerns with the team that I had taken, is I had drafted a lot of passive stuff that very easily got shut down with taunt, and now I think that is definitely not the case. Sure, Klefki and Umbreon don't like getting taunted, but only 2 mons is better than 4. So I think I really nailed my transactions, to be honest. Yes, the downside is that I don't have transactions available to me for the rest of the season. I used them all up. I used all 5 of them up. I can't make any more transactions. The only way I can acquire new mons to the team are by trading with other coaches. So I don't know if I'll want to do that. I probably won't. I don't actually make transactions in draft leagues very often, but I've actually been doing that. I've been making transactions more often lately, because I feel like, I guess you could say that's one of my weaknesses as a draft player, is like the unwillingness to make transactions at times. But you know, if it's going to make my team better, then I really should be more open to making those transactions. And in this case, I think the transactions made my team a lot better. I just felt overall that the team didn't have a very strong identity to go with it. Like, they're just like 11 mons that I just plucked from the draft board whenever it was my turn without really much thought. And like, it was just like 11 mons that the other coaches didn't draft, pretty much. But now I really do think that this team has an identity, you know, and that was important to me. That's really the best way I can describe it, is you know, it's an actual team now, rather than just 11 mons that we drafted. Yeah, it's the best way I can put it. Vileplume as a second poison, it's not ideal because it shares 2 weaknesses with Crowbat, but it seems unlikely that I'll be bringing both Crowbat and Vileplume to a single game. My other grass type option in that point range was Sceptile, and yes, that would have given me a second Unburden user, but I just wasn't feeling it. I thought grabbing Vileplume for the bulk and for the recovery was better overall, and at least now we get a grounded poison in case we ever need to like swap into Toxic Spikes or something like that. We do have a grounded poison to soak those up. So yeah, let me know down in the comments what you think of my draft. That's going to wrap it up for the draft analysis. I apologize for this being 3 days late, but draft analysis week really just throws me through a loop, having to balance that with everything I got going on as it is, and then having to play week 1 games as well. So my week 1 games have already been played. We are playing Olivia Sama and the New Orleans Saints now, week 1, and you will see that battle go up on Sunday. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below, comment what you think of the team, and subscribe to the channel. Especially if you are new, please subscribe. We are really close to hitting 200 subscribers on the channel. So please help me hit that milestone and support my content. Hope you're looking forward to all of the battles from all of the coaches this season. Again, all the other coaches' links are in the description below. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you on Sunday for the week 1 battle.